in the way of me getting the juicy. Oh, big account getting bigger. Yes, sir. Rocks on my chain like glitter. Okay. If there's money in the picture, put it in the bank, 'cause you know them gon' get shit. You know it's true.
Hey, how's everyone doing tonight? Hey, you know what it's time for. We're in front of the white screen, and that means it can only be one thing: Top Rope Spoilers. Welcome everybody who's taking the time to watch with us this evening. As you know,
Hi.
I am Steve.
And I am Kia.
And we, of course, are our normal show on the ring apron. But tonight we're here for our pay-per-view special, Top Rope Spoilers, where we will discuss Money in the Bank. We've been giving previews to it throughout the last couple of weeks. But now it's finally time to, as you would hear a famous guy from one of those TV shows go about, getting down to the nitty-gritty and finally having to make our choices for everything.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah. Let's go.
I'll tell you one thing. It's been a little bit since we've joined you guys. We've had WrestleMania a few weeks ago. A bit of a bummer because we obviously couldn't go. But at the end of the day, we understand everything that's going on. And so another pay-per-view event that's being held at a, non-fan related site. But I feel like WWE's done a pretty decent job of being able to, keep the fans interactive and giving us something unique this year.
Exactly. They are doing their damnedest to keep everything going, keep everything running, despite everything that's going around us with the COVID-19.
Exactly. So we appreciate everybody who's taking the time to join us this evening. Hope you guys are having yourself a great Saturday, and we're looking forward to Money in the Bank. We're less than 24 hours away from the event. Before we get started, though, I do want to give a shout-out to our fundraiser this evening, same as it was yesterday for those of us who joined us for On the Ring Apron. It is the CDC Foundation, based right out here in Atlanta where we're at. They're doing fantastic work, not only keeping us safe and keeping, the health hazards at bay, but also working on their best to find a vaccine, cure, whatever they can find for this COVID-19 thing so we can get back to normalcy. Any proceeds that come through the fundraiser for any of our shows, as long as we're working with them, 100% of the proceeds go directly to them. We don't see a cent of it.
Mm-hmm.
All of it's going in there. It's a wonderful cause. Even if you don't donate or give any assistance through our Instagram or through our YouTube videos, that's perfectly fine. But we do encourage you to go to their site, cdcfoundation.org. Take a look at what they're doing. Obviously, these are frontline employees, essential workers that are doing excellent work for us, keeping us safe. Take the time to go see if there's any way that you can be able to provide it, whether that's financially or whether it's, volunteer assistance or something.
Mm-hmm.
Take the time to, visit their site. They're doing great work for us.
If you need the site, we will post it in the video, in the link, as far as Twitter, YouTube, and here on Instagram. So if it's, something you cannot find on your own, we'll post it for you.
Absolutely. So with that being said, let's get down to the fun. I'm ready to have some fun. You ready to have fun?
I always have fun. I don't know about you.
That's true. So we're going to take this away, but don't worry. She'll be back. So we do have 6 matches on our card for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, just like we did for WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
If we are basically doing only matches that have been officially announced for the card as of when the pay-per-view is going to start. Now, if they decide they're going to throw a kickoff match in tomorrow, or they decide, at the last minute, hey, we're going to throw this match in, obviously we can't preview. We can only go with what we know.
Mm-hmm.
Just like we did for WrestleMania, we start at what are considered our lower tier cards and work our way up to what are our main events. Again, we have 6 of them. And all of them do involve either getting a briefcase or a championship. So this will make things interesting. Our first one will be from Smackdown, and it will be a fatal 4-way match for the Smackdown tag team titles. The current champions, The New Day, Kofi Kingston and Big E, taking on the teams of Miz and Morrison. Hey. Ho, ho. The Forgotten Sons, SmackDown's newest residents, and the Lucha House Party.
Didn't they come in kind of quietly and got into a championship contention?
I think so, but unfortunately the injury to Jimmy Uso not helping out matters. For those who aren't aware, Jimmy Uso sustaining an injury to his leg. Gonna miss approximately 6 to 9 months, so it looks like we're done seeing the Usos potentially for the remainder of this calendar year, just when you think things can't get bad enough for one of our favorite teams. I just hope this doesn't put Naomi in catering as well.
You know how that breaks my heart. You know how much I love them so much.
Yeah. But moving on to this, first of all, we went into WrestleMania with Miz and Morrison as our current SmackDown champions. And then in a very unique match where you only had a single competitor from each team You had Jey Uso, who's still healthy at the time because it's Jimmy that's injured. And then you had The Miz and you had Big E compete in a triple threat match, singles match for the tag team titles. Big E ended up pinning Miz to win the tag team titles, making the New Day 8-time champions. So now they have their first official title defense. And as mentioned on the ring apron yesterday, every team over the last 3 or 4 weeks has at least one win over another team.
Yeah.
So it really is probably the most evenly set up matchup of anyone, because really any team is capable of winning or losing in that particular match.
Who knows?
So we look over everything, and of course, with the Smackdown titles on the line, you have to look at teams like the New Day. They've won it 8 times. And then Miz and Morrison, a couple of championships both in the past and then recently with them as well.
Right now.
And then you have 2 new teams with the Lucha House Party and, of course, the Forgotten Sons, who are looking to try to win their first titles with WWE. So, all things considered, all things taken into play here, we have to, now make a choice. Of course, we want you guys to interact with us. Feel free to put your picks in the bottom. As you may or may not be aware, we are getting ready to work with some foundations to try to also let our picks develop into some donations towards some other foundations, not just CDC, but to others. And also we're going to be looking in the future for potential guest pickers to join us here on Instagram, but it's going to come down to fan interaction. We want to hear from you guys. If you guys want to be part of this, we're more than happy to, let some folks in, no pun intended. Wyatt, Jim. So, with that being the case, we hit our first prediction of the night. We took a toss beforehand, and Kia, you ended up winning, so therefore you get choice of first of all with this match picking first or second.
Okay, well, obviously, like you stated previously, every team has a win over another team. But as much as I love the New Day, and I really do, I am picking...
She's going back to the former champs.
I really am. I'm picking The Miz and Morrison. So that is my pick personally. I don't know about
Normally we
you.
write our letters above it, but they're down here. Down here to the side? How we doing this if we pick one of them? To the side, she says. Any particular reason why?
I just love the team. You already know I love tag teams, so it doesn't really matter who wins. My pick is always going to be with The Miz. Unless Usos are on the other side, then I have to go with the Usos. But since they're injured, John Morrison and The Miz, it will be.
Alrighty, well, I've had a chance to really kind of rattle my brain around this one. This one to me is very similar to the Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair match from WrestleMania, where I jumped between a number of different picks over the last couple of weeks. Because again, as I stated, it's so evenly matched. But at the end of the day, I do think that experience of being in these types of matches is going to win out, although a fatal 4-way or any multi-person, multi-team match really is a prospect of being in the right place at the right time. And with that being the case, I do think that experience in these types of matches is going to play a role. I am going with the New Day to retain the tag team titles, and I believe they will stay the 8-time WWE World Tag Team Champions!
Baby!
Okay, so we know who Kofi is in our group. I guess I'm Big E. Look at me from the side. Come on, I'm definitely Big E.
Yep.
So that takes care of our first match. Staying on that bottom line in a match that is on the lower rung, but definitely is not a low rung type of match. It stays in SmackDown, and it is for the SmackDown Women's Championship. It will be Bayley defending her dominant championship against Tamina,
Who is dominant herself.
So you go back and you look, the two of them tussled as part of the 5-way match at WrestleMania. Tamina ended up being the first person that was eliminated from the match, but it took every other person in that match to eliminate her. You're also looking at the possible not so much friendship anymore of Bayley and Sasha Banks.
Yeah.
Sasha seemingly like she's going to jump Bayley at any time, but she hasn't done it yet. You wonder how invested is she being in in Bayley's corner, and will she essentially play a role in all of this that's happening? Bayley, meanwhile, has been a dominant champion on her own part. She's been able to defend against virtually the entire SmackDown roster. Several wins over Lacey Evans, a win over Naomi, beating 4 different competitors, including Sasha and Tamina herself at WrestleMania. Tamina, however, has been the one person who, out of everyone on that SmackDown roster, has not really been able to, really been stopped up to this point. And there's a lot of people clamoring on social media that it's like, it's time for her to, win a championship. So let's see what we've got here. First of all, your thoughts on this particular match?
You know how much I love Tamina, for obviously personal reasons. Also, knowing what I know of Bayley and her being a very dominant champion and facing literally every woman on the roster as she has done over the last, I'd say, year now?
Closing in on it. She'll actually cross over a year if she was to retain, assuming no SmackDown defenses.
Okay, and like no shenanigans or nothing happens, and Sasha don't flip the script on her.
Or of course a cash in. Hey, it is Money in the Bank after all.
That is true. So with that being said,
okay. So it's my turn to pick first.
Mm-hmm.
And, all things considered, I like both of these women, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm obviously a huge fan, a huge backer of Bayley. I wasn't really sure how to feel about it when she first turned heel almost a year ago, but I think she's portrayed it very well. They're doing a very good job of flipping the script with Bayley and Sasha, and then you bring in Tamina, who I really thought was going to be put in WrestleMania really just because they really didn't have anyone else to bring in at the time. I think I even officially mentioned that on the show, and that's perhaps a bit of disrespect on my part towards Tamina, as all she has done is come in, worked her rear off, and has been, winning matches as she needs to in very competitive fashion. However, for this particular match, I feel like WWE is setting up that grand Bayley-Sasha matchup. Now, the only thing I could see stopping that would potentially be a women's cash-in, if somebody was to take it off of Bayley or potentially Tamina earlier than usual.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's too much of a payoff later on down the road. So it may be a situation where, there's going to be some backhand stuff going on, likely some stuff behind the referee's back. But she's found a way to keep doing it. I think she's going to continue to do it. I like Bayley retaining the SmackDown title over Tamina.
Personally, for me, I didn't like the whole hugger persona, but this new heel Bayley, I love a lot. I know people will look at me and like, oh, that's crazy, but for me, I've always been a fan of the heels. As much as the faces are great, I've been a fan of the heels, and since she has turned heel, she has done nothing but do great things, and I know she calls everybody sheep. I know that's just how she refers to us as.
Proud sheep.
I know that's how she refers to us as. Again, she's been a fighting champion. She has literally defeated everybody across the board, including Tamina. So, with that being said, my pick, honestly, for her to retain is Bayley. She retains.
Oh, there you go. So, Bayley, we're picking the same on this particular match. We did not pick the same on the last one. So, Bayley to retain the SmackDown title over Tamina. Now, here's the question, Here's maybe our side question to this one. Can Bayley do it completely on her own, or is she going to need Sasha's help in order to do it?
Oh, wow. You would actually stump me with that one. I honestly think, it could vary, because I've seen her fight her own matches on her own, but at the same time, I've also seen Sasha kind of help her despite everything she has thrown at Sasha. And honestly, I'm not going to even sit here and hide. I feel like she's the reason Sasha is not in this match right here.
There you go.
But, with that being said, I feel like she's going to need some help.
Maybe. So we move to our third match that is specific just to SmackDown, and it will be for the Universal Championship in a bit of an old family rivalry, if you will, as we will have the current champion Braun Strowman in his first Universal title defense against his former mentor and father figure, Bray Wyatt. So this one has a lot of historical significance behind it in terms of where the two of them have come over the course of, the last few years. Strowman, of course, beginning as a member of the Wyatt family, he, very much was, the strong backbone of it, the black sheep of the family, where he basically was there not to talk, but basically just to tear people up. I can vividly remember the night he made his debut, and he just towered over Roman Reigns. I mean, big, hefty dude, and you're like, where do they keep finding these people?
Yeah, that's exactly what you said, honestly.
I'm like, where does Vince find these people? I mean, because I've never met a guy that size, and then this company's full of them. But, Strowman has grown into his own over the last few years. He's been able to become his own entity. Reaped a little bit of a benefit because he originally was not even on the WrestleMania card. And he goes, thanks to the Roman Reigns situation of him dropping out of WrestleMania, he ends up being put into the match with Goldberg, takes advantage of the situation, wins the match, wins the Universal title, and you can tell very clearly he's not ready to give it up, but he also is facing the one person that could potentially know him better than he does in Bray Wyatt.
But with that being said, with them being part of the same family, or at one point in time they were part of the same family, you have to think, and like I told you yesterday, He has it all mentally. He might have the strength and the muscle, but he has it mentally. And I feel with him being who he is and winning the title, with the walk-on chance with Roman walking off or not being able to actually go into the match, I feel like, in my opinion, it's going to be hit or miss. And for me, I don't see it any other way. I feel like, and as my personal pick, I believe he will retain. I feel like he wants to keep that title, and there's nothing that y'all saw on SmackDown that he wouldn't do. He even told Bray himself, I'm going to keep this title, and even used his parting words on him yesterday, bye, in a way to hopefully maybe get into his head. So, in my opinion, Braun retains.
Okay, so let's make it official on the board. To me, one of the more interesting parts, because, it's basically been just the two of them kind of spouting off words at each other so far. There hasn't been a lot of physical, said. It's all been very much mind games, which is very similar to how Bray Wyatt normally handles his business. But what's interesting to me the most is the fact that Bray choosing to take this match on his own versus going with the Fiend persona. The Fiend has been the dominant person in this, including his extreme squash win at Mania over John Cena. So you now look at it and would think, the Fiend would give him the best opportunity, but yet for some reason he's choosing to go as himself instead of going to his more dominant persona and his scarier persona in the Fiend. And you have to wonder, is it because I've mentioned before on shows that the Fiend has the ability to return people back to their most dominant form? Well, the Fiend never had any direct interaction with Braun up to this point. So, I wonder if maybe he feels Bray would be more effective towards being able to do so instead of the Fiend. It also, of course, could be a lead on that if he can't get the job done as Bray, then he still could get another shot at him as the Fiend.
But
go ahead.
But here's my take. I feel like with them knowing each other as well as they do, I don't think even if, he goes to the Fiend, I don't think Braun's going to be intimidated because he already knows the type of person Bray is.
Cool.
So...
Well, with that thought being in mind, I feel like if there is any one person that could be able to mentally get inside of Braun Strowman's head, it is going to be Bray Wyatt.
Yep.
However, you did mention it ahead of time. Bray has the advantage from the mental side, but maybe not necessarily from the physical side. Very few people can physically go toe-to-toe with Braun Strowman and win out. So, despite the fact that, I feel like this will be a much more competitive match than I think a lot of people are expecting it to be. Despite the shirt I'm wearing, because I really just like this shirt, I am also going Braun Strowman to retain over Bray Wyatt, because I do feel like it will be a situation where Braun is going to have an opportunity to prove that he is, his own man, his own person, but I honestly don't think this is going to be the last that we're going to see these two go at it.
And honestly, if it's not, I'd love to see, and you know how I hate stale matches or seeing the same match 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. I would love to see this match a couple more times, honestly.
So with the Universal Championship being taken care of, we now move to the only Raw exclusive match on the entire card, which is kind of a surprise. When was the last time you saw a pay-per-view in which one show only had a single match? Obviously it's a cross-branded one. But it is for the WWE Championship. Drew McIntyre will be making his second official title defense. He technically defended it 20 minutes after he won it at WrestleMania, but this will be his second official defense, and he'll be going back up against the Monday Night Messiah, Seth Rollins. The stories speak for themselves. They've done a really good job of portraying these two different entities, their stories of how they've had to overcome obstacles, how they both have had their highest and biggest matches against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Seth's actually done it twice, and then Drew getting his at 36. But then Seth very quickly able to show that, that's where the similarities stop. When you get to the big matches, I've been in so many of them, I know what to do in the situation, you don't. So it'll be curious to see if Seth's words ring true. He also said at this contract signing, this isn't something I want to do, it's something I have to do.
So with that being said, and Seth making his points known across the board in all his excellent promos or backstage segments, I feel like, honestly, I like both men, okay? But
gee, I wonder why.
But we also know that I stand Seth. Obviously, I've been a supporter since he was with the Shield and he came out with the Shield, and that's not going to change. But in my opinion, I feel like Drew, just as much as Seth, can get the job done, even if this is his second title defense. And with that being said, I mean, you could say that y'all have a lot of similarities, and then they stop. But I don't think he came out and he said what he said, but I think he's got something in his back pocket for, the Monday Night Messiah. Now, as much as I am in this cult for the Messiah, I will, say that, I will say that it could go either or.
Well, eventually you're going to have to make a pick, but my turn to go first. First of all, we want to talk about, he says that's where the similarities stop, but for those of you who really can, kind of get a zoom in on this picture here, I'm just saying, look at the two individuals we're talking about here. They both have, the longer hair. They both have virtually exactly the same beard, beard, mustache combo. But there is a significant size difference between the two. I do believe that there is a physical standpoint to it. And the one thing that has been proven through his, albeit short, but very dominant run up till now, is that Drew with one Claymore kick can knock you out.
Yeah.
And I really do feel like no matter how much Seth has, the power of, whatever he wants to call it, the Messiah complex on his side and everything else, a Claymore kick will, knock any religious man on his rear end. I do like Drew McIntyre to retain in this particular match.
You know what I liked about the Claymore kick? It knocked off Brock's head several times. So, yeah, with that being said, for my pick, I believe that he has nothing to lose beside the title itself. And with that being said, I don't think it's time for him to give it up. He's worked so hard to get it. Drew's worked so hard to get it. I honestly believe Drew retains.
All right. So let's make it official on the board.
Excuse me. Okay.
Hey, her pen works.
Yeah. After the fourth pick?
Yeah. So far, that means in all three of our singles championship matches, we're going the same route. So it's going to be kind of tough for me to make up the 12-10 ground I lost at WrestleMania. But we'll see if I can maybe catch up a little bit of work. I got one opportunity here. But our next and final two matches, what we consider to be the main event. Now, one unique perspective of the Money in the Bank matches this year is, of course, they're going to be held at WWE headquarters. This isn't going to be your standard ladder match where you grab a ladder, climb to the top of it, grab the briefcase.
They want to make it more complex, though.
Well, they also have 3 hours to kill, and they only have 4 other matches, so they're having to find ways to kill it. But you basically are going to have to climb a 10-story corporate office with who knows what else inside besides what they've shown on the tour. And also the idea of you still have to climb a ladder when all this is over. And you look at some of the competitors that are in these matches, you've got them, in all shapes and sizes. You've got larger people, you've got smaller people, you've got high flyers, you've got people that are more steady on the ground, you've got grapplers, you've got brawlers, you've got a little bit of everything. And, also with the match being taking place inside the corporate headquarters, you don't know what obstacles you're going to face because one of the more unique perspectives that they've announced is that both the men's and women's matches are going to happen at the exact same time. So you don't know if any of these folks are going to potentially interact with each other or potentially crash into each other. But we will preview them one at a time, starting off with the women's Money in the Bank ladder match for the contract briefcase. Now, the stipulation that WWE is stating at the moment is that the winner will get an opportunity to face their brand's champion. They've kind of backed off on that to where you're now saying, like they showed a commercial with Becky Lynch sitting here saying, I will confront whoever wins Money in the Bank, and they showed all 6 people. So I don't know necessarily how hardcore it is, but all 6 individuals, 3 from Raw, 3 from SmackDown, each getting an opportunity to qualify. Our competitors from Raw are Shayna Bazler, Nia Jax, and Asuka. And from SmackDown, you get the 3 lovely blondes, Carmella, Dana Brooke, and Lacey Evans. So, there's about 1,000 ways you could preview this match, but because it's such a unique match that we've never seen before, is there really any strategy going into this other than, just maybe you're going to need a lot of luck?
Like I said before, I said earlier on Questions with the Queen, I believe you could have Carmella and Dana work together to get to the top, and then at some point, once you get all the way to the top, obviously, working with Mella is probably your best bet because she's already been two-time Money in the Bank contender. But my thing with that is if she works with Dana and they make it all the way to the top, who's going to want to grab for the suitcase?
Right. I mean, briefcase.
Briefcase.
They're only going to be able to team up for so long, because obviously Dana and Carmella, let's say they're the example we want to go with here. they can, be able to team up very well, but they're only going to be willing to do it for so long. And then at some point, one's going to want to, deal with the other. To me, I have a very simple philosophy to this. You bring 5 pairs of handcuffs, and you hit someone in the back of the head with something, and while they're unconscious, you handcuff them to something. Then by the time once you get all 5 of them, then at that point you can just take your time getting up there. Go and take the elevator, take the scenic route, stop for a drink, do whatever you need to do. But and then you look at as I stated earlier, we've got different types of body sizes here. You look at someone like a Nia Jax, who is of the larger complex. So considering that you've got to climb 10 stories, a lot of stairs, a lot of extra movement in there. Is that going to cause her fatigue as she get up there? Is she able to from a a physical standpoint, is she going to be able to handle the stresses of this? But also, while someone maybe like an Asuka or a cage fighter like Shayna Bazler may have a little bit more wind to be able to handle it.
But also, don't forget, with Nia, not just that, she's had both her knees repaired, so how is that going to work to her advantage or disadvantage? Is it going to help her because, they're brand new, or is it going to hurt her because they're brand new? We don't know.
Exactly. And of course, the trials and tribulations of moving through the corporate headquarters, of course, already mentions in the men's match of people potentially being thrown off the roof. With all due respect, I don't want to see anybody get thrown off the roof, at least not in the women's match anyway. Men's match, we'll get to that in a minute. But you look at all of these competitors, and I could legitimately see a reasoning to why any of them could win it, because Carmella, a former winner. You look at Dana Brooke, Lacey Evans, they've both been this close. Lacey maybe more lately than Dana to getting opportunities. This could finally be what puts them over the top. And then you look at the 3 competitors on Raw, 2 of them former champions. Nia, former Raw champion in her own mind, and Shayna Baszler, who for all intents and purposes has looked unstoppable short of one roll-up loss to Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. So, you look at the entire match and could see any of these 6 women winning it. I do think there's going to be a lot of luck involved. I do think you're going to have to catch a break here and there. You also don't know with the other match going on and what else might be happening in the corporate office on a Sunday, who it's going to be. So, all that considered, you're up. Who goes?
I feel like, honestly, in my opinion, I feel like each and every woman has the advantage to get the briefcase. We don't know what's going to happen. Honestly, Mella is probably, obviously, the favorite because she has won it twice.
Really? You say she's a favorite?
I would say she's the favorite for some who's actually going to root for her. Shayna, I feel like she is a cage fighter, and she has that stamina and that everything to get what she wants. And not only that, she's got this mean, aggressive side to her. So I think that's going to help her. As far as Nia, again, I feel like just because she's a big girl, we've seen big people do big things. So again, with that being said, we don't know. And Asuka, I can't even speak on Asuka. Give her a mic.
Well, no one speaks like Asuka.
Give her a mic, let her talk her way to the top, and go ahead and grab that suitcase.
I told you, put her on commentary.
Yeah. As far as Dana has come in. I think she's been underused all the way up until now. I feel like, in my opinion, she would be someone who could also be favored in winning because, they haven't really used her much. She's got not only beauty, she's got strength, she's got brains, and she's got strength to go with that. But at the same time, we cannot overlook Lacey, the sassy Southern belle, who, in my opinion, is military. And, or she comes from a military background.
I was going to say, that's not an opinion, that's fact.
And she comes from a military background. I feel like, with that being said, she probably would have the most advantage. She's been through everything in the military. She could strategize. She has the stamina. She has her woman's rights. She has more to go for, honestly, and winning this, contract. So, in my opinion, my take on the whole thing, and plus she's just beautiful. I'm not going to even sit here and say, she's not. My pick is going to be the sassy Southern belle.
She's going with Lacey Evans.
I am going with Lacey Evans.
So, surprise, because a lot of people are speaking about how they think that the Raw competitors are at a much better advantage in terms of being able to win. But, interesting that you would take a Smackdown competitor and maybe all the Raw folks take each other out as we go. I do look at a match like this, and I do think, as I said with the Smackdown tag match earlier, experience does play a role. And you look at people like Asuka, and you look at people like Carmella, a former winner. They know what to do once it's time to get to the latter portion of it. You look at someone maybe like a Shayna Baszler or a Nia Jax, who hasn't competed in a lot, or in Baszler's case, any. They haven't really competed in ladder matches that much. So when they get to that portion of it, are they going to be able to handle the trials of being able to handle that particular situation? But I look at it from the perspective of, if all things are considered, this is a new match. I don't think you necessarily look at who can win the match. I think you look from the perspective of either Becky Lynch or you look from the perspective of Bayley. Who is the person, the one person out of these 6 that after you've had a 20 to 25 minute match and you're just barely escaped with your championship still intact, whose theme music do you not want to hear at that particular moment? And to me, there's only one name, that's one music you don't want to hear, and that is Shayna Baszler's. So I do believe that is the person who is going to do what needs to be done to win the Money in the Bank contract, and then Becky Lynch is going to have to start looking over her shoulder, because I guarantee you Shayna's not going to wait long.
Well, I don't mind hearing her music, but also
I love her theme.
Also, from my perspective, and you know I love Becky. I think she's like the world's greatest. She did what she had to do to win both titles and whatnot. And obviously, with that being said, hearing Shayna's music, she may not wait long.
So now it moves us to our final match of the evening, which is not necessarily our main event, but one of what I consider kind of the dual main events. This one for the men's Money in the Bank contract. Kind of the same situation as the women's. You've got 6 competitors, 3 from Raw, 3 from SmackDown. Your Raw competitors are Aleister Black, Rey Mysterio, and thanks to an injury to Apollo Crews, you add in the phenomenal AJ Styles to the match. And then from SmackDown, you've got Daniel Bryan, you have King Corbin, a former winner, and Otis, who also finds his way in. I do really feel like this is going to be very similar to the women's because of the uniqueness of this match. There is a lot that's got to be taken in, perhaps a little luck. You've got different body sizes here because you've got very speed demon guys in terms of Rey Mysterio and Daniel Bryan. You've got size when it comes to Baron Corbin and Otis. A little play on Otis towards the end of SmackDown when he had the 2 ladders break underneath him, when the ladder rungs break underneath him when he was trying to climb it. So, are they going to portray that maybe he can't climb the ladder, and is he going to maybe need a little bit of assistance, or, going to climb a crane or something?
Or does he do what Kane had to do, or the Big Show had to do at one point, and have his own personal ladder, and actually use his own personal ladder?
I didn't think about that. Get the custom ladder.
Exactly,
I didn't think about that at all. So,
all.
a lot of different possibilities here. Of course, the first step getting up all the way to the roof to start with. And then you got to look at once you get to the roof, I think that's really when the fun's going to begin, because you've got AJ, who somehow dug himself out of a grave to maybe let his mouth put him back in one, because he decides that he wants to sit here and talk about how he's going to chuck some people off the roof if that means getting to this contract.
But also, who answered that?
It was
Aleister Black. And Aleister Black has never, in my time of seeing him on TV, has backed down from anyone or anything. And he makes it look good when he flops down and he crosses his legs.
I also could see it as him being the kind of person who's not going to be afraid to throw someone off the roof if it comes down to it. I could see someone like an Otis or a Daniel Bryan and maybe Rey Mysterio not having the heart to maybe do it. But I don't see Aleister Black, and certainly not King Corbin, having any issue shoving someone off a 10-story building if that's what it means getting to this contract.
But obviously you have to sit here and you have to think, in the back of King Corbin's mind, he's had the briefcase once before. He was goaded in by John Cena, and maybe he's getting to actually have another opportunity at maybe trying to win it, and hopefully, if you're listening, do better about not letting people goat you. You're the king. Don't let people sit here and get in your head.
So all things considered, you look at this match, with all things considered, I pick first. And it's kind of interesting that you brought up King Corbin, because one of the questions you were asked on your questions with the Queen earlier was, who is the person who needs this the most? Not necessarily who's going to win, but who needs to win this match. And you hit the nail on the head. King Corbin, in my opinion, is the one that needs this win, because he's the only person out of the 6. Or excuse me, I take that back, because Daniel Bryan has won before and won.
He has.
But King Corbin is the only person to have won a contract and lost, and he lost in just terrible fashion, because he was as we noted, was goaded into a match by John Cena and ended up being pinned on an immediate roll up by Jinder Mahal during his run as champion. So King Corbin has always had to live with that stigma, and really they've played his character off as a person who is always this close, has all the potential, has all of the weaponries and the tools, and has won virtually everything under the sun except a world championship. That's the only thing Corbin hasn't done yet. He's won King of the Ring. He's won multiple smaller championships, but just this is the one that he's missing. You look at, the return of AJ Styles and, adding a person of his caliber and everything else into it, does he potentially have an advantage? But really, I'll just go ahead and go up with my pick here. Until Styles returned on Monday, I was 100%. I had my choice. It's been my choice for quite some time now. But then Styles came back. And it's the moment Styles put himself into the match, I really started having to rethink everything, and it made me start leaning towards looking at some of the other choices. It made me reevaluate everything. You look at someone like a Rey Mysterio, whose career is on the back end. He's even admitted, I've got fewer matches in front of me than I do behind me. And then you look at someone potentially like an Otis, who this may be the only chance he gets to be world champion because he's seen as a tag team wrestler. He's seen, of course, with his partner Tucker, is this going to be the only chance he gets to try to become a singles world champion? But even taking all of that into consideration, even taking Styles, surprise return back into the match, I'm going to stay with my original pick. And this is, again, the same reasoning I have for why I picked Shayna Bazler in the women's match. After you've had that grueling 25 or 30-minute match, Drew McIntyre defending, against Seth Rollins or whomever he defends against, and he survives, in my opinion, whose music do you not want to hear at that moment? I don't want to hear Aleister Black's.
I do. I like it, but yeah, I get
Aleister
it.
Black is going to be my pick to win Money in the Bank because he is a person that has the capability with a single kick to lay you out, cash in, and become world champion.
You know what I'd like to see? Him get on top of that ladder, grab the briefcase, and then sit Indian style. I'm all
and
for
he may very well do so. He's definitely got the flexibility to do it.
I'm all for that.
I'll take us home, Kia. Who you got?
Okay, see, with that being said, you said Otis deserves to win. I agree. With everything that's happened to Tucker, with everything that's happened to him, he has shown that he is willing to fight for whatever. We saw how he got angry with Dolph.
Don't give me that. Mandy being on his arm isn't enough.
Okay, yes,
a gorgeous woman.
A beautiful blonde will do that for you. But you have to think, he himself did what he had to do, showed the aggression, showed that he is not to be played with, so do not play with Otis. Now, as far as we know of King Corbin, he's won it before, got goaded by Cena, and it did not look very well on his part that he did lose it in such a horrible, horrible fashion, an unkingly fashion, shall we say. Now, Styles, we all know how we love us some Styles, and when I say we, I'm talking about me and Savannah. So, with that being said, I love him. I would love to see him do it. I would love to see him. But I feel like, honestly, everywhere he's been, he's done great things, including here when he came back. Now, Mysterio does have some matches that go behind him, and I feel like if anybody was to win, I feel like it should be him, with it probably being, maybe his last handful of matches. Again, Daniel Bryan. Now, let's not overlook Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan has had hard-fought matches, has been in them, we were there for the one where he actually, it was WrestleMania, we were there when he had to fight 2 matches in one night, and he got up from the gurney, and he got back in the ring. He didn't care if he was hurt or injured or down. He said, I'm going to fight. I'm going to get that title. So in my opinion, I feel like Daniel Bryan could be one of the few in this match that could mentally and physically, with even as small as he is, make it to the top of the ladder, make it to the top of the building, grab the contract. Now,
I said this is the longest-winded way to getting to her pick as ever. She's basically giving us an elimination style.
Yeah, exactly. As far as Aleister Black, I love Aleister. Again, like I stated before, he's never backed down from anyone. I don't think he's going to back down now. And as far as AJ running his mouth, as much as I love AJ, who's the one that spoke up?
It was Aleister.
Not none of these people. Aleister. He is looking for a good fight. He is itching for a good fight. And if it means getting his hands on AJ Styles to throw him over a building, please don't do that. Then I think he would do it, honestly.
I'll say do it. Do it.
As far as my pick, I'd have to say the same thing. In my opinion, he wants it more. He will not back down. And honestly, if you could just jump down into an Indian style position on a dime, oh yeah, most definitely. So my pick, insane, I'm picking Aleister Black.
Okay, so make it official. We both taking Aleister Black, so an opportunity for me to potentially catch up from WrestleManias. We only have 2 matches, in which case we don't pick the same thing. We have different opinions in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. We also have differences in the Smackdown tag team titles. So I need to take them both in order to catch up. If not, Kia could potentially go up 3, 4, maybe.
And let's go ahead and make it clear he's not catching up to me. So go ahead and prepare yourself for whatever thing we have decided on doing, because I will be the winner.
More on that coming up in future episodes. But Money in the Bank is always one of my favorite pay-per-views in the year. And the one thing that I'm going to say, because it hasn't really been something that's been talked about for the last couple of years, Money in the Bank has been something to where at least one of the people who wins it usually cashes in the same night. Oh. Not possible this year because you've got the matches happening at the end at a different location. In fact, it's not even going to be in the same state as them, so it's not going to be possible for a person to cash in on the same night, which allows us as fans to be able to have that open possibility that a championship match and a championship title change could happen at any time. And with me running Plate Exchange, of course, for those who've watched it, I'm extremely excited because that means it could happen at any time.
Here's my thing. I was not a fan of those people cashing in. I'm sorry to, because I know Alexa did it. I believe, if I have it correct, Bayley did it. And
Bayley was last year's.
Yeah, and there was one other person that is not ringing a bell. I'm sorry again, Mella. I'm sorry, but I don't.
That's twice in a day she's forgotten you, Carmella. She's gonna block you soon.
Okay. Well, she's got to follow me first to block me.
Good point.
But my thing with that, I just feel I didn't like that at all. It just kind of took away from the buildup of the whole year. Who are you stalking? What you gonna do? How are you gonna do it? How are you gonna take them out? Who's helping you? That just ruined all the fun. Unlike Dolph Ziggler, who I said was probably one or two of my favorites.
Well,
just let that concept go. Hold on and stalk who you going to.
Well, one historical swerve that I'm going to bring up to wrap it up things here, because I always like to give a fun fact. They had the rivalry going back a number of years ago between CM Punk and John Cena when they were trading the title back and forth between each other. And it was an Alberto Del Rio cash-in on a night in which they were unifying the two WWE titles together. And then Del Rio, out of nowhere, kind of inserted his name into it and kind of threw off the whole, I guess the whole mantra of that entire rivalry. So that's the only thing I worry about, because it's no mystery that they're building up Bayley and Sasha to eventually have this, this fantastic match. Maybe it's SummerSlam, maybe they save it for next year's WrestleMania. So I do worry that potentially, they might finally get to it, finally be to the point where the two of them are about to lay each other out, and then someone cashes in and stops the whole story for another 6 months. But that's the joy of Money in the Bank. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen, like Kia burping on camera.
Hey, nobody heard that!
Well, now they know. Either way, hey, it's live TV. You never know what's going to happen. And I had to fight one off about 10 minutes ago, so we're both even.
Thank you for throwing yourself under the bus. It still don't help.
Yeah. Either way, thank you guys for joining us on another edition of Top Rope Spoilers. We love doing this for you guys. We appreciate everyone who comes out here and watches. Again, another thank you to our fundraiser folks that we're going with, the CDC Foundation. Make sure you take the time, just take a real quick minute, go look at their website, cdcfoundation.org. See all the hard work that they're doing, see if there's any way that you can help. But Money in the Bank, less than 24 hours away. I'm excited. They're excited. The kids are.
I'm excited, and I'm standing here, so how could you forget me? Either way,
you can speak for yourself.
Either way, do us a favor, wash your hands, sanitize your hands. If you've got to go out, put on gloves, put on a mask, stay safe. We want to go ahead and get back into these arenas, fill them, make them loud, do what we got to do. And
more importantly, be in front of your TV tomorrow, 7 o'clock, for the start of Money in the Bank.
Yep, I say so, because we will be there. I know 3 other people, Haley, Savannah, and Stephanie, they will be there. I can't speak for anybody else.
Yeah. So either way, y'all have yourself a great rest of your evening. Thank you for joining us. And we will enjoy Money in the Bank. We'll have our reaction videos immediately following the pay-per-view to give us our thoughts on the matter. And then, of course, our next show, Friday, 10:15 for On the Ring Apron.
Hopefully I'll be in a better spirit. I wasn't feeling well for our last reaction video. So anybody that saw it was kind of a lump on a log.
We'll make sure she has extra coffee. But either way, y'all have a great night. Kia, I'll let you take us home.
Love you.
Y'all have yourself a good night, and we'll see you later. Have a good one.
All right. Love you. Bye, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
I hope you didn't just exit out.
I ended the video. Are you sure you want to end your live video?
Yeah, but you need to save it in the corner first.